Yeah, those probably. I mean, it's got the same skeleton, right? Um, the animated objects have an instance of the same skeleton that the avatar does. So I think anything that's rigged to attachment points would work just as well for those objects as it would for the avatar. We're not including attachment points in the sense that you can attach additional things to animated objects, or maybe attach animated objects to your animated objects, or yeah, I don't even want to think about it, but um, but the attachment points are there as joints, and so I think the rigging stuff is probably fine. Question about something like spinning wheel. So the idea there is that you've got a static object that's attached to an animated object, and it can kind of do its thing and spin around or whatever. I'm Lucy, I'm not quite seeing what a faux attachment point is. Is there a JIRA for that, or any kind of description? Let's see. One question: could you, for example, use Avi as a pet if it's rigged to attachment points and volume bones? Yeah, probably. It's not. I think in terms of the behavior of the rigging, it should all be the same. Um, just a question of whether we support other aspects of it, like do the collision volumes actually act like collision volumes, and can you attach things to the attachment points and so on. Okay, yeah, Lucy, if you want to add that as an amendment to bug 100864, that's fine. It's just good to have some kind of a persistent record of this stuff, rather than just whatever discussion we had in the meeting. Let's see. Someone mentioned that our link to Second Life Avatar Skeleton.zip is busted. Okay. First, I've heard about it. Does anybody know where we link to that or how long it's been acting up? Yeah. Okay, thanks. I'll see if I can find out what's going on with that. Hopefully, we've got a copy around somewhere. If we don't have if we don't have it at the old location. Okay, Beck mentions that there's a Google Doc coming talking about scheme for proxy mesh rigging. Sounds good. I'd be curious to take a look when that's available. Alright, so let's see what else is going on. Asset HTTP viewer has been out for a couple of weeks now. I haven't heard anybody saying that the universe has exploded, so I guess that's good news, but as usual, let us know. There's issues there. Um, let's see, what else is going on? We're still working on bakes on mesh. That is the main thing that Anchor's been focusing on recently, and it sounds like he's making some good progress on getting a updated baking service working with the increased text resolution. So that's good news. If that all checks out, the next step there would be to do some performance analysis to make sure that increasing the resolution isn't going to cause all of our bake servers to fall over, and do we need more of them, that sort of thing. Um, let's see what else, and then we have. Oh yeah, Alex Ivy sounds like it's coming along quite well at this point, so I look forward to seeing that go out. I think that should make a big difference for anybody that has 64-bit OS. You'll be able to run the 64-bit viewer, and there'll be a lot fewer issues with things falling over due to running out of memory, which is probably our top cause of things falling over currently. Inverse kinematics by LSL function. No, not really. I understand, that what you're trying to do there, and it seems like it would be useful, but I don't have any kind of specific concrete thoughts on what that is supposed to look like, or how feasible it would be. I'm not even sure exactly how that would work, since you know, the joints, the server doesn't know where the joints are, right? It tells you, okay, go play this animation, and then your viewer locally positions your joints according to whatever animation you were told to play. So, there's not really any way that the server itself could go and do math on the joints and say, okay, the joints are at these positions now, but they should be moved into these other positions. Um, yeah, so I mean, the best you could do would be to just sort of be treating the server as a kind of an intermediary to pass along the request, and then the viewers have to do the actual work. But yeah, you know, it's a it's an interesting suggestion, but just haven't had any time to think about it recently. Let's see, we got a link for a proposed UI change in the mesh uploader. Change default to load from file for the various LODs. Okay, why do we want to do that? Yeah, I mean, I encourage people to make their own. I don't know. Currently, people seem to be defaulting to not making them at all, which isn't really what we'd be encouraging with either default, but they seem to be finding a way to do it anyway. You know, it's been a while since we did the mesh stuff, but I expect that the reason we made the generate the default was just it gives developers or content creators a kind of a path of least resistance that they can get something that kind of works without having to do any extra work. You stick give us a link to, they've already made their one file, and then you stick up a link saying, hey, go make some more files. They're probably going to say, hey, wait a minute, I don't want to do that. But certainly if they do that, they can get better results.
Maybe the real issue is that they're allowed to change them. If they were just given these default LOD settings and they weren't allowed to change them, then to get a better score, they'd have to make their own. Instead, they're allowed to screw with the LODs, which the generator's not going to make a perfect LOD anyways, but because they're allowed to change them and lower them, they get these crazy low land impact score.
Yeah, well, certainly the way we score the land impact and the upload costs shouldn't penalize people for making good LODs, and that's something that we can change. But I'm not sure that's the only factor. I think some of it is some combination of just sort of folklore and standard practice. In the extreme case, we could just, as you say, just take out the option. We, you specify your file, and we make the LODs on the back end, and they, they're as good as they are, and you can't do anything to make them better or worse. How happy would you be with that state, Madhu? I mean, you obviously do a lot of detailed design on your avs. Would you think that the defaults are good enough for distance work?
Ultimately I would want to always make my own, but I kind of, when the LOD generator came out and how it works and everything, I think it's in many ways brilliant because at least every mesh is getting LODs. Now, whether they're good or bad, hard to say, but I think having it generate it itself, I mean, we could have a world that does all that in the background and we never touch it, and then we could get terrible LODs. I mean, there are worlds that do that, but I think the way Second Life does it is perfect. It's just, you can't force people to make LODs.
Yeah, so it does seem like there would be cases where doing it that way would there's probably quite a large pool of things out there where you're actually going to get better behavior by having forced LODs, but on the other hand, that the people who do have the inclination and the knowledge to make their own can certainly make ones that are a lot better, and are going to be disappointed if they don't have that level of control. And they're just throwing these out as ideas. I don't know how to fix the LOD issue, but it's obviously a problem, and it's something that we've kicked around various times in these meetings. Yeah, I agree that changing the accounting is part of the solution, Polysale, but it's I don't know. I don't think that's probably a complete solution.
I do think that the lab could eliminate some of the lowest settings, like make it the LOD's default to like 100 being the lowest. And that would force people to have to make their own lowest LOD and not try and cheat it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's still easier to make 100 triangles in a flat sheet than to make 100 triangles that actually approximate your shape. I mean, the people who don't want to make an LOD are not necessarily going to do a better job just because you set some, lower limit on the poly count.
Oh, and anybody looking, we don't have proper LODs on this cat yet. I usually don't do that till the very end.
What is it doing currently? Just using the defaults?
Well, I use a modified default because I don't want to pay more than I need to upload something. So
Yeah. Yeah. Is there any way to fix the LODs on an existing model after it's already been uploaded? It seems like that stuff's all baked in, so to change it, you would actually have to go back to the source DAEs and redo the whole upload process, wouldn't you? I'm not sure if there's a way to force the viewer to show specific LODs. You can certainly change the threshold for how eager it is to switch to the coarser LODs. It is possible that if we change the price function, then some people would want to put in better LODs and would want to do that.
I don't think that would change anything. They'll just cheat it like they do anyway. Maybe chop the body up, or like let's just say it was a body or a high poly body. They'll just chop it up into pieces and like, oh, well, see, now it's lower and lower, and then you'll have multiple parts of one giant mesh when it could just been one giant mesh.
don't increase the cost. I'm on version 35 of this cat, so
You're just talking about the cost of the upload rather than the land impact?
right, exactly.
No.
Yeah, and it doesn't help for people who are going to other, like that first time going to the beta grid and they can't sign in, so they got to submit a ticket. It's just like, well, forget it. I'm just going to pay and upload it on the main grid and keep testing it out. That can be a pain.
So the problem is just that you run into issues with trying to get stuff to work right on a DD?
Well, me, I love that. The beta grid, I don't have problems over there.
I mean, we certainly have had more problems on the test grids, including a DD, than on Agni. Getting those to be consistent is one of those sort of background things that we try to make better over time.
I don't think it's more or less the stuff. It's more or less getting people to get onto it. You'll have people who are just starting out to build and never even heard of the beta grid, and then they want to go over there and they can't sign in.
No, their account
So
just hasn't been ported over yet. Yeah.
yeah, so that's always a big block to getting people to create. Like, oh, what the beta grid? And I gotta submit a ticket, and it's gonna take like how long? A week? Then you're like, ah, forget it. The project has passed. I've moved on.
Yeah. I don't remember exactly what we have it set to now, but I thought we had some kind of automatic thing where it would copy you over without you having to file a specific request.
Yeah, I know. I just been telling people that.
Okay, well, yeah, I agree. If you have to talk to support when you first want to get on the beta grid, that would be kind of a drag. Yeah, I think there would, certainly you could imagine various ways to make the LEDs themselves more apparent. It would be nice if we could show them all in the upload dialog in the mesh. It would be even nicer if you actually had pictures of them in the marketplace listing. But those are obviously all longer term things. There's not going to be a change on that stuff immediately.
We should at least have polygon count in our listings.
Yeah, that would also be a good one.
The preview window was scalable in the beginning. You scaled the whole window, and the preview window would scale up. And I don't know why it was changed, but a bunch of people bitched about it, but it was never changed back.
Sorry, what was the change?
In the early days of Mesh, the upload window, the little box that you view your mesh in, that would scale as you scaled up that window, the whole upload window.
Oh, we would just scale with the size of the whole dialog.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But at some point, it got locked, so you couldn't scale the window anymore, and that also locked the size of the inside window to view the mesh. A bunch of us bitched about it. I don't know why it was ever done, because to look at your mesh in that little tiny window is pretty ridiculous.
It was probably a side effect of something else that people were doing with the layout of the widgets or something. I doubt there was ever a requested feature that said, make it impossible to change the size of the preview window. Yeah, I mean, in terms of trying to improve the LODs, it's really you've really got two audiences, right? You've got content creators that you want to educate about why it's a good idea, and you've got customers that you want to understand. You want them to understand what they're getting and why it matters. And it's not really necessarily the same kinds of outreach for both of those, or they're not necessarily going to be looking in the same places either. Yeah, Brooke, fire away. You can ask questions in chat or voice if you like, whichever one. Yeah, there are some ways we could do more kind of automated analysis of the LODs to kind of characterize how reasonable a fit they are. It can get a little subtle because you're really trying to analyze shape rather than trying to analyze the constituent polygons, which could get you into some complicated areas, but it's worth thinking about. I don't have an ETA for animated meshes. It's coming along pretty well. I've been working recently on getting things to play nicely when you have link sets. So there's multiple meshes that are all in the same inventory object, and a lot of the pieces of that are working. There's a few places where the graphics pipeline gets unhappy if you change objects from animated to static or static to animated at the wrong time, and so we need to do a little more digging on that. But it's coming along okay there. But there's still a fair number of things we'd have to look at before we could get out as a project viewer. We'd have to have some way to at least some placeholder values for kind of how we're going to evaluate things like land impact. We'd have to decide, to either implement attachments or to disable them at least for now, rather than just having them do some crazy thing, which is probably what would happen if you tried it now. So there's a few different other pieces to look at. I can't tell you the time frame. It's kind of the same issue we're into with Bento, where we're trying to change parts of the system that haven't been changed before, and so you don't really know how hard that is until you kind of get in and start banging on the code.
Isn't it going to be a little bit hard to adjust anything like land impact, since like one of the main focuses here is to be able to take a mesh we already have, so it already has a score right now. So if that gets changed in any way, or are you thinking something more like adding something to it?
Yeah, we could just say, okay, if it's an animated object, then that adds, X amount to your land impact, that sort of thing. And it's okay if we get the values wrong when we first go out to a project viewer, but we at least want to make sure that we kind of have the capability to tweak it, that we kind of know where the hooks are for that. Brooke has a question about a few different things that I'm not sure I can say too much about. There's increase in marketplace copybot accounts, reasoning behind not banning on the first offense, reasoning behind not IP banning, reasoning behind not taking the money back to Linden Lab. Yeah, none of those are really things that I have any contact with. I would hope you could get, that you could bring some of those things up with support, but if you get into these kind of policy questions, whoever's managing that, it's not necessarily something where all the details are going to be available publicly. But anyway, it's not really something I can comment anything on because I don't really know anything about it.